So Purim is a fun holiday. If you really look at it, though, it's a tremendous amount of problems with Purim. Okay? First of all, in terms of our celebration of Purim, it really raises a tremendous amount of questions. Everyone thinks it's a fun holiday, you're supposed to get drunk, and the lo yada, and so forth. But generally, we don't look so positively upon drinking and for sure getting drunk. So if you look at the Meforshim already in Halacha, a lot of them will say, listen, you're supposed to drink on Purim and so forth, but they put there and say, that's only if you're a kind of person who can properly handle drinking, which means you drink until it's if you're able to ensure that your behavior when you're drunk will be proper. But if when you drink you're going to act improperly, then you shouldn't drink. That's for sure, everyone says. But even so, it's a tremendous amount of people saying, what kind of mitzvah could there be in getting drunk? I mean, like what's the benefit of being so lost in your in intoxication, and the essence of Torah in so many ways is thought and being rational, having your mind and your wits with you. So how can there be a value in drinking, losing your wits? I mean, here in Toronto, Rob Ford passed away today. And I'm not going to get into his position as mayor. There are people who thought he was a great mayor, people who thought he was... I'm not going to get into that. But the fact of the matter is that the way I found out that Rob Ford died today was I was just looking at this. I went to look at the CNN website. Just a process during the day. I sometimes look at the CNN website and just to see what's happening in the world. Usually I like CNN because they're a little bit more negative about Eretz Yisrael. So if they're saying this, then it tells me what certain people are saying, which is sort of, I like to know what certain people are saying, so I get it from CNN. But not that I'm in agreement with their viewpoints. But let's see. And if they say something positive about Israel, then something positive must have been really said about Israel. Okay. So the fact is that one of the first things is Rob Ford passed away. I can't believe it. CNN, the big American thing, it's like knows about Ford. Now, why do they know about Ford? Because
substance abuse.
Yeah, right. Because he was a character, as they say. But the fact of the matter is, it was like, he sits there and says that, first, I never took crack cocaine. Then he changed his mind and says, well, maybe I did. I don't know. Maybe I did in one of my drunken stupors. I'm sitting there and saying, yeah, this is a mayor. A guy who could sit there. And this is why people liked him. It was one of the guys. He also got drunk. So when he was drunk, he didn't know what he was doing. This is a mayor. This is what happens when you're in a drunken stupor. So the truth of the matter is that generally, if you look in terms of Judaism, we don't look so well upon drinking. Yeah, we don't look upon it with absolutely, never take a drink. Like the Gemara says, is that sometimes a little bit of yayin can give you a little bit of, can relax you a little bit, and they're finding out more and more. But obviously, we don't think it's so great intoxication and lose your head.
What's funny is, though, that the majority of Jewish people celebrate Purim because of that whole aspect, that energy. I know like 15 different parties that it's based around that idea of drinking that are going on.
So what's going on over here? So I mean, that's the whole point. So why is it such a hush of a day? So in certain places, it's sort of like it's a day that you can sort of let off steam. It's sort of like it's like the one day of the year just to let off steam. So therefore, it's sort of like the letting off steam, but not that it's an ideal. But if you look at Purim, though, it's the fact is the Vilna Gaon said, and others, it's we call Yom Kippur Yom Kippurim, Yom Kippurim, and then people say it means Yom like Kippurim. In other words, that Yom Kippur only can get you so far. Purim takes you further. And here we are. I mean, what's this behavior on Purim? We seem to, we're thinking it's okay to become intoxicated and so forth. But the fact is that people really lose sight of what Purim really is about. Have you really ever thought about the Purim story? You ever really thought about it? Okay, it's a remarkably sad story. Yeah. You know that, right? Okay. If you look at the story, it's like, if you actually went through it, what would be your response? It's a crazy guy who's putting out an edict that he's going to wipe out your people and your family, yourself, and so forth and so on, on a specific day, giving absolute right to everyone around to kill Jews on a specific day. The edict came out in Nisan, in the month of Nisan, and this is going to be told in Adar. People are going to have the reshus to kill you. How are you going to live through those 11 months waiting around? And then you're worried, well, maybe people will hop around and say, hey, listen, let's kill Jews earlier. Why did he do that? So already you have a theory why. It's an interesting theory why. Because everyone didn't hop around and kill Jews earlier because they all thought the king was crazy anyways. Forget the fact that it came from Haman. People all thought Achashverosh was crazy. Why? Because of Achashverosh's previous edict. What was his previous edict? His previous edict was that there should be an edict going throughout the land that it should be clear in the house that the man's in charge. Okay? That the man of the house is the one who's in charge. And people all thought this edict was crazy. Now, why did they think this edict was crazy? So Rav Ber Soloveitchik has a very interesting perspective on this. He says the reason they were so concerned, Achashverosh says, kill Jews, maybe he'll change his mind and not kill and not do and change his edict. So we better not kill Jews early. But the truth is, you never know what this guy's going to be like because you see how crazy his edicts are. Why was his edict crazy that he was going to kill? That the man should be in charge of the house? Because listen, who's in charge of a house? What goes on in the privacy of a house? Even if there's a rule outside in the government, the man's in charge of the house. What really happens within the four walls of the house? The dynamics of the person of the relationship itself. As much as you say the man is in charge, once you get within the four walls of the house, the inner personality of the individuals work. And those work and those work pursuant to the two personalities. It's like that classic joke. I wear the pants in my house, right? And the reason I do so is because my wife tells me to do so, right? Right? I'm in charge because my wife tells me I'm in charge. The truth of the matter is what goes on inside a house depends on the person, on the interaction. So you look at this law, the man must be in charge. What kind of crazy law is this? This king's crazy. And not only that, he changes his mind. He kills Vashti, then he's sorry about killing Vashti. The guy changes his mind. This guy. So now he comes out with an edict that's 11 months from now. There'll be a day that this action against the Jews can take place. So maybe people sit there and say, "Gee, let's hop around and do it now, right? We'll be okay in 11 months. Why not hop around and make Achashverosh happy now?" Because who says next month he won't change his mind? So already they know the king is crazy. But the Jews are worried. If you were living in that time, how would you feel? You'd be, what?
Scared.
Scared. And then, let's understand what happens. So what happens next?
2016.
So, what?
Equality?
Pardon?
Equality between men and women?
Right. Well, that's true. So now for sure people would look upon and you look that crazy. But the fact is that so what happens is this guy Haman, who was like the big guy on campus, the king loved him. He was a big fan. He's gone under, which everyone says is, boy, we were lucky not going after those Jews, because you see how crazy the king is. Yesterday Haman was his number one advisor. Now he's not a number one advisor. So the fact is that in that thing, so then what happens? So Haman is killed, right? But because Haman is killed, the king doesn't retract his edict. Esther has to go back to the king and says, listen, king, it's very, very nice that you retracted this edict, but there's this law where people will be allowed to kill Jews without any repercussions. What are you going to do about that? What does the king say? Well, any edict that comes out from the king can't just be retracted. So there's nothing I can do about that. So Esther and Mordechai come up with a plan that says, hey, wait a second, the Jews are allowed to defend themselves. And then, this is after Haman is killed, right? Esther tells Ahasuerus who Mordechai is, and Ahasuerus remembers Mordechai from the Bigton and Teresh case. Hey, this guy's on my side. So he makes Mordechai the new prime minister. And Mordechai, right, sends out an edict to all the Jews are able to defend themselves, and he also sends out to all the governors and generals and so forth, by the way, army officers, policemen, so forth, if you want to know what side you should be on when the people start up with the Jews, you should know the Jews can defend themselves. Sign Mordechai the Jew. Okay? So, hint, if you want a job in the government, right, you better recognize that I'm the guy in charge now. Okay, so that's great. So the Jews feel, oh, this is better than it was. It's great. It's better than it was. But let's understand something. Who's the prime minister 6 months ago? It was Haman. Now the prime minister is Mordechai. And this is something Rabbi Soloveitchik points out. Who's to say Ahasuerus won't change his mind again? Because we already see Ahasuerus as a crazy ruler with crazy edicts and crazy ideas. So the Jews are happy that Haman's out of the picture. They're happy that Mordechai's in charge. But the fact is, at this point in time, he's not exactly so comfortable. Hey, wait a sec, we got to defend ourselves and go after them, and we can defeat the enemy, and so forth. And yes, we're happy that Haman got killed, and we're happy about this, and so forth. But you know something? These things aren't 100% definite. This guy Ahasuerus is still the ultimate king, and Mordechai's in charge for now, but Ahasuerus is the guy who changes his mind. So the truth of the matter is that maybe you're not really totally happy. Maybe you're not really totally, you're a little bit concerned. You know what I mean? Now, on this point, this is actually a word from Rabbi Soloveitchik. He actually makes his point. He says that real simcha, he quotes the Gemara to this effect, and so he says, real simcha is found with Pesach. Because Pesach was a pure gula. They left Pharaoh, that was it. Pharaoh was out of their lives. Okay? After Yom Suf, that was it. They didn't have to worry about Pharaoh anymore. They were not going back to Egypt. Right? It was it. But he points out that with Purim, even after Haman is killed, and even after Mordechai gets to be, you're still not sure what this Ahasuerus guys do, because you're still in this land, you're still in the kingdom of Ahasuerus. So he points out that Purim, you're not really simcha on Purim. He says that on Purim, the reason you're drinking is because you're supposed to be as if you're happy. But you're not really happy because the Purim story, you don't. So the question is why you're doing that. And then he leads into the fact that really this is to tell you some aspects about life. So let's look at the Purim story. It's a tremendous tragedy. What's the tragedy of Purim story? Esther is one of the saddest heroines in Tanakh. Here's this fine Jewish woman, a tzedekis, person who, according to Chazal, was married to Mordechai, married to a tzaddik, right? A tzedekis married to a tzaddik. Esther, right? Brucha Esther, blesses Esther, and so forth. And look what happens to her life. Look what happens to her life. What is she stuck with? She's stuck with having to be married to a non-Jew. Yeah, everyone, people are talking, Esther became a queen. I'm telling you, Esther wasn't so happy being a queen. She would have gladly not been queen. She was married to a non-Jew. Not just a non-Jew. The machlokes of whether Achashverosh was just crazy, just a tipesh, or he was a bigger Russia than Haman. So here you have Esther married to a man that she would most likely not be revolted by. And not only that, there's arguments that Darius, Esther's son, who let Klal Yisrael go back and build the Beis Mikdash, but Darius was Esther's son and not brought up Jewish. Mostly he knew some aspects of being Jewish and so forth and so forth, but for sure he wasn't brought up Jewish. He wasn't brought up as I'm sure he was a Tinnish and Nishma, okay, and I'm sure he had some feelings for the Jewish people. I mean, he knew his mother, according to Oshita's old Darius, was a Jew. He knew his mother was from the Jewish people. Can you imagine a woman of that nature? And what does she do? She does this to save the Jewish people. When she went in, and that's why in the reading of the Megillah, right, when she goes to Achashverosh, she knows she's going to start the whole ball rolling to save the Jewish people. But she sits and says, Kasher avadati, avadati. What happened to me will happen to me. And we sing in the tune of Neicha. Because we have to be reminded of Esther's personal sadness. Esther's personal tragedy. The Purim story is a very complicated story. So Rabbi Yasher is pointing out that the reason we may drink is because we should recognize that, yeah, there's an Indian of being Misameach in Purim. There's an Indian that we succeeded. At least. Yeah, but you have to understand that life is complicated. That Purim is not a pure simcha of Pesach. Purim is complicated because it's in the real world. Purim is our issues, and if you look at our issues, we look at our issues, and we look at and people present things so simply out the world, so simple this and so simple that, and the fact of the matter is the world is complicated issues. Listen. You look in terms of Eretz Yisrael today, right? What do you call it? Donald Trump spoke at AIPAC last night. I'm not just mentioning Donald Trump because I'm in support of Donald Trump. The fact of the matter is everyone who spoke at AIPAC was very pro-Israel. Trump, Cruz, Kasich, Hillary Clinton, they were all pro-Israel. The truth of the matter is Bernie Sanders skipped it, but he said for reasons with nothing to do. But the truth is Bernie Sanders made a very pro-Israel statement today. Because he basically said that the BDS movement, which is against Israel, obviously has some anti-Semitic roots to it, which I'm sure is not making many of his supporters very happy with him. There's actually people, I saw a website who I wanted to see something, so I Googled something about Hillary Clinton. I saw that there was a website which was angry at Clinton for being so pro-Israel. And how come Clinton supporters aren't attacking her for being so pro-Israel? But the fact of the matter is, but Trump made an interesting statement. And it's very true. He said, you can't have peace if there's education of hate. He says, if kids are brought up that the movie stars are big in a society, so they'll want to be movie stars. If kids are brought up that baseball players are big inside, they all want to be baseball players. If brought up that scientists are big, they all want to be scientists. So what do you expect? If they're taught in their schools that terrorists are big, they're going to want to be terrorists. So he says, you can't have any talk about peace unless you change the education in the Palestinian schools. If they're going to educate that hate is good, then that's the starting point. You got to get rid of education that hate is good. But then you're left with an interesting issue. If these kids are brought up that hate is good, then of course they're going to be hateful individuals. Fact of the matter is, it's very, very sad, because that doesn't mean that they're almost like Tinnik Shanishmas. A Tinnik Shanishma is someone who is not held responsible for their behavior because they were brought up that way. And we have that concept of Tinnik Shanishma. The Rama specifically says. He says it by Jews. There's an interesting question about the Shem Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. That's an interesting question, and I'm not trying to apply the concept of Tinnik Shanishma to Shem Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, because it seems to be that it's not so simple to apply like that. But the fact of the matter is if people are brought up a certain way, they're going to look in certain ways. So the truth of the matter is, in Eretz Yisrael, we can be really, really upset with terrorists, but when you hear about a 13-year-old kid trying to stab someone, there's got to be some sadness that the kid was brought up with this kind of education. It's very easy to hate, but people who are brought up with this in an education of this type of hatred, you got to sit there and feel sad for them on some level. They were brought up with this hatred. And you really saw it. You really see it in the South, where in the whole movement of civil rights and so forth and so forth, it was like people had to fight against their original upbringing. And people would tell you, "Listen, I was brought up that blacks weren't equals," and it took me years to change that perspective. I mean, that was a reality. The fact of the matter is that life is very, very complicated. And in many ways, that's one of the things you really look at people talk about in terms of Purim, you really confront it. On one hand, the Simcha, because Baruch Hu saved us. There's also tremendous Simcha because Purim was, pushed us so ahead in terms of Torah. There was a new Kabbalah to Torah, which was even in certain ways greater than the original Kabbalah to Torah. The fact of the matter is, Kibbutz Torah. They kept it. They brought Torah further. There was a new Kabbalah to Torah because of their experience of Haman and the tshuva that came out of what happened with Purim, and the fact that the Kodesh Baruch Hu saved them. They understood that. But the truth of the matter is if you think it was just partying, it wasn't. And if you think that the whole idea of why we say to drink, it's almost because, you know something? You should have an awareness that it's almost like I'm taking this drink because I understand that there's an idea to be happy here, but it's not so easy for you to be happy. Maybe I have to do something to push myself to be happy a little bit, because there's a weakness in this happiness. Fact is that really is much more complex understanding of Purim that lets you into really understanding the challenges of Purim. Now, if you come to our open house on Purim, we'll celebrate, we'll be happy, and so forth and so forth. But the fact is, and we will have some alcoholic beverages. But the fact is that the real, and this is perhaps what I'm leading to in terms of the Kabbalah to Torah of Purim. fact is that life is a challenge. And Torah, in many ways, is supposed to sharpen your senses in meeting that challenge. In many ways, it's a very interesting aspect about Torah, and why Torah as a revelation is so different than the normal understanding of revelation. When people think in terms of revelation, what do they think God revealed? When people think in revelation, especially fundamentalists, what do they think God revealed? If you ask some Christian, God spoke at Sinai, what do you think He revealed? What was revelation? What is revelation? So, and I'm giving a Christian example of this. Revelation is always assumed to be God giving the clear-cut, direct answers. If you talk in terms of a fundamentalist and you talk in terms of revelation, it's God gave over the clear-cut answers. Right? Don't do this, do this. That's why you had a Scopes trial. You read the book of Genesis, God said 7 days, it's 7 days. God said this, God said that. Okay, that's it. Black and white, this is what it is. Goes against every idea you've been thinking about. You don't understand how it happens. Doesn't matter, that's what God said. Black and white. Because it's revealed. It's revelation is God gave you the exact perfect answers. Okay. What do we believe in terms of that revelation? So Moshe Feinstein, in his introduction to the Igros Moshe, his introduction to his response to literature, deals with the nature of halacha. He says a most remarkable statement. He says, if God wanted to give you exactly what to do in terms of halacha, He could have done that. God wanted to give you a playbook that was perfect and no issues about it, He could have done that. Right? He could have done that. Right? Do this, don't do this, do this. Right? He could have, exactly like this. No machlokasim, nothing like that, nice and simple. He could have given you the straightforward playbook if He wanted to give you the direct answers. But what did He do instead? What did He do in Torah?
We expect people to find, to refine, not to refine, to develop.
Develop?
In a way, yeah.
Okay, let's try and be more precise. What did He give us?
Well, you will find certain groups saying, "Oh, that's this way," and then another group saying that.
What did God do? Yeah, that's true. There's
Which
people.
kind of.
Yeah, but the fact is, what did God say? What did God do?
You're asking a room full of Jewish people.
What
You're gonna have 15 different.
Exactly.
Answers.
What did God give?
Gave the Ten Commandments.
He gave more than the Ten Commandments, but the fact is that right? Gave the entire Torah and so forth and so forth. But what did God give over? Clear-cut, black and white statements. No.
No.
Basically, gave it over to you like this. Yeah, maybe if you want to scratch your left ear, well, maybe it's a good idea. Yeah, Ramosha says, he gave it over in such a way that it's not clear. And you got to think and analyze. Right? And the fact of the matter is that was God's purpose. He said that's exactly what God did. Moshe actually developed it from a famous medrash. He says it's a famous medrash, and it's worthwhile sharing this with you. There's a famous medrash that says that Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shemayim, and in it he saw God writing the tagim on the Torah, the crowns on the letters, and on the letters of the Torah. So whatever that means, okay, and whatever it means, God was writing the tagim on the Torah. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, why are you putting those nice little ornaments on the letters? So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, because there's going to be someone in the future, Rabbi Kiva his name, and he's going to derive thousands and thousands of halachas from looking at the Tagin of the Torah, from the crowns of the Torah. So Rav Moshe points out, he says, it's very, very interesting. We don't have a case of Rabbi Akiva learning something from Tagin in the Torah, right? So what exactly is Moshe Rabbeinu? What exactly does Medrash mean? We don't have a case of Rabbi Akiva doing it. What does it mean? So basically, the way Rav Moshe understands it is God's basically saying, he says, why are you giving such authority to the language of the Torah, to the words in the Torah? You dorish this letter and dorish that letter, and this word and so on. Because Rabbi Akiva is going to do drushes. And it was because people have to learn from things in the Torah. They have to do drushes. He says, because God didn't give it over black and white. He gave it over for you to learn things from and for you to analyze. And this is going to go into the future, where people are going to analyze Torah Shabbat, Torah Shabbat, and analyze. There's going to be machlokesim and so forth and so forth. Because basically, God didn't want to give you the black and white answer. What did God want to give you? He wanted to give you a guidebook to assist you in understanding life. Philosophers try to understand life by just looking at the world. We try to understand life by looking at the world and looking at the Torah. The Torah is our additional information that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us in terms of trying to understand the world. And in understanding the world, the objective is to really understand ourselves. Because really the objective really is our growth. That's why we're in this world. Why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in this world? For our growth. Right? To make ourselves. And that's really what it's about. And the way you do that is through thinking and analyzing the world, working with others, not just ourselves as individuals, ourselves as a community. We're supposed to try and work it out. God didn't just give us the answers, because then we wouldn't be able to meet our essence of Selam Elokim. We have to try working it out ourselves. We have to build it from ourselves. The fact is Purim is actually a remarkable time of that. Because really, that's what Klal Yisrael did. Kimu Masha Kiblu Kfar, they really started understanding Torah. And that's why the Gemara says that when they accepted Torah at Purim, they understood what the Torah's purpose was. They understood the challenges they had to try and work through life. And they were really, really meeting life. And life's not simple. Simchas Purim is a very complicated simcha. Okay? And that's really something to think about. And the fact of the matter is, it means that we're supposed to meet things head on. And yes, you're supposed to ask the hard questions. The fact of the matter is that you should be asking the hard questions. As Jews, we should be asking the hard questions. There's a lot of questions in the world today. We should be asking those questions. And we have to look to Torah to assist us in trying to answer that. We're not going to give the answers that the rest of the world will give, because we have a different perspective. But the fact of the matter is that too many Jews don't want to answer the hard questions. I talked about Eretz Yisrael, and the fact of the matter is that they're real. You really have to deal with a lot of issues when it comes to Eretz Yisrael. I'm obviously very pro-Israel, but I understand the challenges. They're real challenges, and people throw out very simple answers. There are real challenges in Eretz Yisrael. What are you going to do with 3 million non-Jews in the Jewish state? I don't know. Okay? It's a challenge. And we think we just have simple answers. And the truth is that there are Arabs who really understand the benefit of being in a Jewish state. Because they understand that Jews protect the values that they understand to be important. Then the question is wait a second. Does Judaism really support democracy and Western values? Everyone likes talking about Israel being a Jewish state, and then they sit there and say it's the only democratic. Well, is a Jewish state really a pro-Western democracy state? I'm talking about halachically Jewish state. The truth is that there are issues like that. But you know something? One of the things that most people don't recognize is that we have to deal with various values. We are taught values as Westerners, and we're taught values as Jews. And we have to understand how they may mesh and where they may not mesh. It's not easy. It's hard. And the fact of the matter is that's where Torah really comes into it. That's really what Torah is about. It's dealing with the issues. And the fact is, it's Rahman al-Islam that people try to phone out fast answers. The fact of the matter is that I think in many ways, if you look at the Purim story and so forth, you begin to understand, something? We do have to have this concept of simcha. We have to be thankful for Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us a challenge. We have to be thankful that we can grow with these challenges and that we can look forward to a good ending. The fact is that there are challenges and we have to think. And those challenges affect us as individuals, as a community, and so forth. Okay, I spoke enough. Come on, no one else has anything to comment on me? Want to call me a dogmatist? It's okay. Dogmatist for thinking. Okay. Okay, that's it? Turn off the camera. You guys will now say something maybe? I don't know. Okay. Okay. Anyways, listen. Purim.